Can traditional martial arts have a role in the sport of MMA? We pose that question to Hanshi Don Culp to hear his thoughts on the subject. We're also going to learn about where the sport of kickboxing stands today and if there is space for the two sports to coexist as we enter round 4 of WCMA's Inside the Ring with Hanshi Don Culp.
It's time for Inside the Ring with host Mike Petrarca.
Kickboxing, before like the UFC and all that, kickboxing was right up there in combat. A lot of great kickboxing promotions. Where do you think the sport of kickboxing stands in the hierarchy of all that today?
Today? Well, it's still obviously a strong sport. I think UFC, they say everyone calls MMA UFC, but
right, exactly.
That's just an organization. But we know all about that. But MMA is kind of overshadowed a little bit, I think. Muay Thai has come in, and we all know about when Muay Thai and kickboxing blended, that no one thought leg kicks were that effective, so that surprised a lot of people. So I think kickboxing is still prevalent. I know that K1, that's a very popular event. I do believe they have leg kicks in that, but it's expanded a little bit. But I think it's still a very viable art, but there's more options now, so I think that they're kind of spreading it around a little bit more. But let's face it, MMA is one of the top sports now. It's right up there with football, baseball, and basketball, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, it's last year, just the UFC alone, just to name that, 1.14 billion in revenue.
Wow.
So to your point, it's
well, I heard they bought the company 30 years ago for $2 million. Now it's worth $7 billion. So it's expanded.
Amazing, right? But it sounds like there is still that room for all of these different disciplines.
Sure. As long as you got to have obviously sanctioned rules. I'm personally not 100% crazy about the professional wrestling aspect of it, meaning that the flamboyancy and the bragging and and that part kind of turns me off personally. I like seeing a good, strong event where both fighters are humble and and obviously trying their best within the rules. But that side gives it a black eye, in my opinion.
I see.
Pun intended. Drug use and trash talking and all that stuff. I guess it sells tickets, but for me as a purist, I kind of like a good, fair contest. With two guys or girls duking it out within the rules and pushing it to the point where it goes past physicality. Now we're talking about who has the will, who has the spirit, who can get themselves out of this predicament. That's what's exciting for me to see.
And how do you protect these high-level mixed martial arts athletes from just themselves, in a sense, from the fame, from the potential for substance abuse, from getting too big of an ego in a negative way?
Well, they're grown adults, so you can put it out there, but it's an interesting question, but it seems to me that if we blended in a little more of the tradition into it, it might open some people's eyes up, because a lot of this new generation, and it's evident by my attendance, it's down and has been for quite a while, because I don't want to just teach pure fighting. I want to still teach kata and tradition, and although we have a jiu-jitsu program and a straight boxing program, I think that putting that element back in there could be very, very helpful. A little bit of more the spiritual aspect
Putting
of it.
the art back in the martial arts.
Right, and they call it mixed martial arts, so it seems to make sense to me. But a lot of the younger athletes, they don't really know about that. They don't really know about what a bow means or even how to tie their belt on, because they don't even wear a belt. Kneeling down, why the heck would I kneel down? Or calling somebody sensei or shihan or soki or whatever their title may be. There's a beautiful etiquette. So education, I think, would be very helpful. Like I said, a lot of these young martial artists know rear naked chokes and arm bars and side kicks and 360 things, but they don't really know much about the tradition of the martial arts, which would benefit them a great deal, I believe.
What do you think the best way would be to educate people about those traditions again?
Getting them excited about it is the challenge, because it's way more exciting to get turned on by, flashy techniques,
Absolutely.
But one thing that I try to explain to my students is that you want to get a strong technique, then you need to get your mind involved in it, your spiritual aspect, your breathing involved in it. One of the biggest things that a lot of people deal with as fighters is fatigue. And fatigue comes from nervousness and tension, and trying too hard. And the Zen aspects, the Buddhist aspects, teach us how to be calmer, how to breathe deeper, how to stay calm under that pressure. So that would benefit fighters greatly, by learning how to stay a little calmer. So it's not just about punching and kicking, but controlling their emotions, which consequently controls your respiratory system, controls your breath, and it helps you. You're in a tough position. You maybe even took a shot. You clinch with somebody, but you're staying calm. You're breathing. Right. I teach my students breathing points. I say, if the referee says stop, break, step back, take a big breath when you're in a safe range. If you're in a clinch with someone, big breaths from down low. To try to train them to do that even more so. I even yell at them when they're breathe, a little reminder when I'm coaching a fighter.
That's an amazing idea, because you see often in the corner in boxing, kickboxing, even mixed martial arts, the coach will often say, give me a breath.
Right. Before water or anything.
Before water or anything.
Yeah.
But that's interesting to do it while they're actually in the combat,
right,
while they're in the clinch, while they're slipping.
That's right.
While the ref break. That's a really interesting point.
An interesting story is when George Foreman made his comeback, like 44 years old, and won the world title against
I saw the Michael Moore.
Incredible.
I saw that on HBO in Hilton Head Island.
Yeah.
Michael Moore was winning the whole thing, and Foreman...
He set him up perfectly. He knew what he was doing. But what was interesting, George said, boxing's easy now. And they said, what do you mean? You're older. He says, well, I've developed a jab, and I learned how to relax. Wow. And if you remember when Muhammad Ali beat him because he intimidated him. Come on, George. He says, oh, you got it. And George got mad. Punched himself out. Ali dropped him with one good shot because he was exhausted. But when he made his comeback, he said, boxing's easy with the jab. So I think learning to relax is a spiritual thing.
Right.
So
what's that Buddhist quote where, anger is like a hot poker. You're the one that gets burned by it. Right?
That's right, yeah. So it's complete. And quite honestly, when you're a fighting career, you don't want to do it as much, but you still want to train, and you need something else. I think that martial arts starts physical, and there's a little trickling of the mental, but hopefully at some point the students do this, and then eventually I think it becomes more mental.
More mental.
Because I still train all the time, but I don't train like I used to because it hurts too much.
Yeah, right.
I need a day to recover it, or even more, but I'm always working on the mental aspect of things. I know you want to talk about music later, but playing drums in a high-level band, man, it's physical. But what keeps me calm is breathing and posture and believing in myself and staying confident. And that's all from the spiritual aspect of my training.
So one major benefit that MMA can derive from traditional martial arts, as Hanshi Don Culp points out, is the spiritual component that helps to control one's emotions and nervous energy that contributes to a person's overall endurance. Also, as Don points out, overall longevity behind one's fighting career as an MMA athlete. Those who embrace the traditional values could realize a second career as a teacher of the martial arts itself. Make sure you join me for round 5 of Inside the Ring as we ask Hanshi Don Culp if he's ever had to apply his martial arts training in a real-life situation. And if so, what was the outcome? If you would like to learn more about Hanshi Don Culp, or if you're interested in training at his dojo, his doors are always open at 220 Old Baptist Road in North Kingston, Rhode Island. Or you can visit him on the web at donculp.net or call 401-885-9774.